You! It's me again. Sounds like you need some help. You know, the way you're practicing it right now will make it take a lot longer to learn, right? Let's talk about how to practice efficiently, shall we? First, let's make sure you're set up to practice. You will need a pencil, your music, your instrument, and a functioning reed if that applies to you, a music stand if you have one, a tuner, a metronome. Wait, what's wrong? You don't have a tuner or metronome at your house? Well, let's take all this stuff to your computer. Okay, so now that we've got everything we need to start our practice session, flute, pencil, music, tuner, metronome, all those things, we're going to start our practice session with some long tones. Okay, we do those in class to help develop our pitch, warm our instrument up. So that's a little bit of a condensed version of what we would do in class. Just some long notes to warm up our instrument. My instrument does feel warmer than it was before. I was watching the tuner as I went and noticed I was watching the needle and trying to get it towards the center. Now, you might have noticed that I tended to be a little bit sharp. Let's double check with that. I'll do a B flat. See, the needle's coming in high, so I'm going to pull out a little bit. Let's try it again. I still had to tuck my head a little bit, so we're going to bring it out a little bit more. There we go. Very good. So, long tones and tune up. That's always a nice way to start a practice session. Doesn't take too long. You don't have to sit there and play a ton, but just to warm up your instrument. Now we're ready to learn the exercise that we were just struggling with. So first, we're going to spend a minute or two doing note by note, making sure that you know the fingerings for each note, and just forget about the rhythm. Focus purely on the correct notes. Look up any fingerings you don't know. You have a fingering chart inside of your Foundations for Superior Performance book, your blue book. And then I want you to make sure you watch out for accidentals and the key signature. Okay? Some of the mistakes that I've been hearing are just missed accidentals and missed key signature. So I'm going to do a little bit of note by note for the chord study 1 in your book. So, now you might have noticed that in measure 4, I slowed down a little bit around that C. The C kind of catches you off guard. We tend to want to start that measure with a B flat, so for a flute player, that would have been something that tripped me up. I know it did when I first read the exercise. Then also in measure 5, on beat 3, this super high B flat that's right there, right here, that super high B flat, it can very easily trip us up a little bit too. Let me fix something on my screen here. Okay, so now we've gone note by note and made sure that we understand the notes and the fingerings. That didn't take long. That whole thing, that took me about a minute. If there's something you need to look up, it might take you a minute or two, so it doesn't take too long. The next thing, it's time to add the rhythm back in. So we're going to count through this. Let's measure by measure. So measure 1 doesn't look too hard. We've got 1 and 2 and 3. Then measure 2, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 with another rest on beat 4. Then continuing to the end, we've got lots of eighth notes to a half note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, so we've taken a look at the rhythm. Now, if you ever don't know a rhythm, you can ask me. I am happy to help you. You can jump in a Zoom meeting with me. I'd be happy to help with that way. So we've got our notes and we've talked about the rhythm. Now I would like to try to work on handling this excerpt nice and evenly with the metronome. Now the reason we use a metronome is to try to keep a steady pulse. One of the things that I was hearing in a lot of the submissions that I got from you guys was a not steady pulse. Now, this metronome helps teach us to keep our internal metronome going. So when we get rid of the metronome, we're kind of keeping that pulse in our head. So what we're going to do is start with a slower tempo. So you see I've pulled up the metronome now. Instead of 100, let's start at 70 and see how fast that is. Okay, not too bad. Okay, so let's try this excerpt a measure at a time. So measure 1 was 1 and 2 and 3. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so notice that I'm lining up my notes right with the metronome again. So repeat those things a couple of times. Let's go to the next measured. And so on. If you don't feel comfortable with it, play it more times through or slow down the metronome. Now finishing it out. So, I'm playing along with the beat. I really want to drive home to you guys that deliberate practice, so breaking these things down into smaller chunks. I'm going to pause the metronome for a moment. Breaking these things into smaller chunks is super helpful. It is very helpful. You don't want to just, slop through it and submit it and it's not really learned and there's no pulse and all that. You get better at your instrument when you do it the way that I'm showing you right now. So really just try to break these things down. Now, first, if this is easy excerpt for you, this whole process will be sped up. If this is a little bit challenging, it'll take a little bit more time. That's okay. It can take more time. That is just fine. Take the time you need. Slow down the metronome a little bit more. Now, there's a demo of this assignment that I've already created. I'd like you to try to get this up to 90 beats per minute. Now, you might say, well, Mrs. Baker, I've played with the metronome before. How do I know I'm with it? Okay, so I'm going to play an example. I'm going to play this through, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like when you're not exactly with the metronome. I mean, you can be playing with it at the same time, but you're not with the beat of the pulse. So let me see if I can play an example that way. The point. So like I'm playing with the metronome in the background, but is the metronome even helping me at all? Am I following it? No. So what we really need to do is try to let the metronome drive the beat. 1 and 2 and 3, rest. 1 and 2 and 3, rest. I'm using the rhythm and the beat to play along with it. So now, guys, let's pause this again. So, listen to your assignments before you submit them, because I can tell some of you haven't listened to your assignments. It will definitely help you pick out some of those mistakes. Ask yourself, are you playing with the metronome? Are you with the beat? Are the notes and rhythms correct? You really want to focus on staying right with that metronome. And and just to sort of close this all out, guys, what I've gone through with you today will help you actually learn an excerpt. You might have to start slower, and that's fine. You might be able to start faster if it's an easier excerpt for you, which is also fine. The goal is to learn the music correctly, not to rush through it just to get it done. So, just a few things to think about. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good rest of your day. I miss you. Bye.